So you want to learn how to use the advanced reporting features that I outline in my book, the Scrum Field Guide. Let me show you what I do on my projects, and I'm also going to show you how this stuff came about, and then some of the negative consequences that you'll see with regards to bugs and outages. Let's start with capturing the data and me explaining what the data is. Over here in column A, you see that we have different work types. We have taxes, we have stories or features. To me, a tax is the cost of doing business in your organization. Scrum, as you can see, has taxes. Sprint review, sprint planning, daily Scrum, this is all the overhead that we see in Scrum. Not a big deal, right? We need to pay it. Stories and features, this is the stuff that our customers pay for. And then the other two items that I use, technical debt and spikes. Technical debt, relatively self-explanatory. It's taking a shortcut now to pay it off in the future. And then a spike is an investigation into the unestimable. And it's good to track all this data. And let me show you why. In my tracker, I have down here project-specific reports. And you can see right here we have this categorization or breakdown. And what I do is sprint after sprint after sprint, since each one of these spreadsheets will be a different sprint, I aggregate the data and it looks like this. In this case, what we see here is I've laid out the different sprints, and I have simply added the data in. So spikes, debt, taxes, etc. Now the real value in doing this is it gives us this fancy picture. And this is downloadable, and you can see the links in the description. What we see here is the green going up in sprint 1 through 5, and in sprint 6, notice how the technical debt got a lot bigger. Right here, the technical debt got a lot bigger. This tells me that the team was probably shortcutting their definition of done a little bit and not acknowledging it, and now they gotta pay the bill, right? The bill is due, and they need to pay that technical debt bill. And you can see the corresponding green stuff going down. This isn't meant to beat up a team or punish a team. It's meant to be able to create transparency and highlight areas for improvement and discussion, say in a sprint retrospective or maybe in sprint planning. This is information that we can use to help our team grow over time. Let me tell you a little story. How this came about, how I came up with this idea was I had a customer who said to me, "Hey Mitch, it feels like we're spending a lot of money and not getting a lot of value." And I said, "Yeah." And this happened after about, sprint 9. And I'd been communicating this information all along, and it just wasn't being fully absorbed within the customer base. And so I showed them this picture. Notice how sprint 1 through 9, the taxes are huge. In sprint 10 and moving forward, they got a lot smaller. The reason why is this. We were running, it was a C# SQL project with a database component backend, but that database stuff was pretty small, say 10 to 20%. We were spending upwards of 70 to 80% of our time every sprint simply dealing with the SQL and database people. They wanted to know everything before we did it, before we thought of it, before we wrote a line of code. It had to all be approved. So there was a lot of overhead because we were constantly meeting with them to talk and talk and talk and talk, but we never really did any work. Taxes were high. Showed this to my stakeholder, and she's like, "Hold on, let me make a phone call," and you can see what happens starting in sprint 10. We're able to focus on delivering. This is the value this brings. I mentioned this earlier, that this is a topic in my book or a chapter in my book, the Scrum Field Guide, so do check that out. And also make sure you download the sample files that you're able to see, and give it a like and a subscribe. Apparently YouTube really wants us to say that, and that's how the thing grows. Anyway, the next video is going to cover bugs and outages. So see you on the next one.